Hey mates, welcome to the Hitout. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad, and if you're new here, this is Zero Hanger's weekly AFL podcast. So, this week we discuss all the action from the weekend. We also go through what would be the best storyline to finish off this year and who should play the AFL halftime show. A lot of deep discussion. If you're new here, we also have Craft of the Draft on this very YouTube channel. Check out our Josh Growden interview that went up over the weekend. He's the kicking consultant, and he goes through the kicking technique of a few AFL draftee prospects, which is really cool. And subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and let's get into this episode. Alrighty, and joining us, as always, Mr. Aidan Cellini. How are you, man?
Good, Phoenix. How you going today?
All right. Good. Big weekend.
Surviving.
I'm getting through it. And making his triumphant return. He's been off for a couple of weeks for some unknown reason, but Mr. Callum Farquhar, hello.
I'm here again, and good to be here.
Welcome back. All right, let's get straight into it. So, first thing on the rundown, game of the weekend for me, I don't know about you, but Expansion Cup.
Yeah, huge. Obviously, kind of dive into a little bit. It's the game between the Suns and the Giants, obviously two of the newer teams in the competition, although it's been well over a decade now that they've been in the league. But yeah, what a game. You know, obviously the Suns have a poor record and still stands at NG Stadium or Sydney Showgrounds. I think they've lost now 8 in a row or 8 from 8 since they've played there. Obviously they've played at other venues as well that they've knocked the Giants off at. But yeah, after a really, really good start, a few blunders there from Mac Andrew and Jed Walter kind of turned the tide a little bit in terms of the Giants' favour. It was a pretty stoic victory from Adam Kingsley's men with an 8-goal final term and keep that strong run against the Suns.
Yeah, it was just a massive final quarter. I think Tom Green really just took the game by the scruff of the neck, and he really just put it all up in the Giants' favour. And yeah, it was this really strong start from Gold Coast, as you mentioned. They kicked 3 goals in the first 2 minutes. I think it was the first 4 goals of the game at least. So they were really off to a hot start. But, you know, the Giants, they found their way back. And yeah, that trend keeps running where the Gold Coast just keep losing up there.
Yeah, I really liked, obviously the first 3 quarters from Gold Coast. But I don't think they lost any fans on that, from that game. Like, Giants just seem to be getting this run coming into the back half of the season. But that 50-meter penalty on Mac Andrew. Who was it that called the play on?
My understanding was a teammate.
Yeah,
Ainsworth. Mistaken.
Ainsworth, yeah.
Yeah, so there.
That's one of the funniest things.
Yeah, which is just a, don't come Monday, coach killer type thing, or a fine for Ainsworth and probably Mac Andrew as well. But how about that Guernsey? Just while we're still on the Expansion Cup, the yellow debut. Obviously Giants are orange and the Suns' new kit's red with maybe a tinge of orange, but
I mentioned it maybe it was a month ago or so. I was like, when are they going to bring it out? And they finally did. So, but yeah, geez, it was like, I guess maybe it looked very West Coasty, and they brought that West Coast performance in the last quarter.
That's not bad. I liked it. I liked everything that the Suns are doing with their jumpers and everything. Like, I still really love the red on red. I know I'm like one of the 4 people that love it, but I love that one. And I kind of like the boldness of just being like, yeah, we're just going to take West Coast colours and we don't care. I think it was great.
But I think just in the context of this game, obviously both teams probably realistically for the first time are pushing for top 4 and top 8. Obviously we know the Suns' inability to make finals since, and they haven't made it at all. And obviously the Giants have had a pretty decent run over the last 8 to 10 years in terms of September action. So this game had a lot of meaning to it. The Suns now 3 losses in a row. The Giants are starting to make some form after a little bit of a blimp there in, the middle part of the year in May and April. So, it was just such a big game. And I guess the result in terms of the spectacle is what fans wanted, which was awesome.
Yeah. And now the Suns are out of the 8 as well. They're sitting in 9th. So big game is sort of like one of those 8-point games when you look back on it at the end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how they go from here.
Yeah. Game in hand though, and I can just we might get into this a little bit later, but that last game, I just know it's going to come down to that last game for them to make finals for the first time. But otherwise, I'm still like, I did predict pre-season that they were going to make the grand final from 4th. And I still think it's pretty likely. I know that they're outside of the 8, but I think there's still a good chance.
Yeah, well, I mean, their losses to the Giants, we all assume they're going to be up there. Geelong in Geelong, and I think the Fremantle one was a bit of a bit of a shock loss, especially at home as well. But they usually play pretty good at people first, so I wouldn't be too worried about them. Although it is the first time they're out of the 8 since the start of the year, so bit of a watch on the Suns.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so one of the other, so this is Thursday night, I think, the Dangerfield 350th Friday night. That was interesting. The whiteout. I think we that was a new thing for the AFL or an AFL game. Trying to steal a little bit of that American fever, which I don't know. Australian rules, I don't think it does that sort of thing well.
Nah, I don't think so. I think we're just not crazy enough like the American fans. And with football as well, I know it probably did look great on telly and even in person, but it's such a game that you have to watch intently. Whereas you've got, even just an NBA finals at the moment, you've got OKC, they're all decked out in blue. There's such a vibe in the stadium, in the venue, where the AFL stadiums, because also it's quite big, can't replicate that. So I understand what Geelong were trying to do, but yeah, in terms of the evening itself, obviously the game aside, Patrick Dangerfield's 350th, so 25th player to do it. He's going for a record 9th All-Australian this year, potentially as a forward, which would be pretty rare from him. It could end up with the most Brownlow votes ever if we tip him to kind of vote like what he should do on Brownlow medal night. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him. He's been a super player, a little bit maligned there at times. People I think just don't like how good he is, but to make 350 with the type of player that he is as well, I think is just such an extraordinary feat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a massive feat to be 25 players. That's a pretty exclusive club. You think about all the players that have reached there. Just to have the longevity to play that many games across that many seasons. It's just an unbelievable milestone. I think only 2 other cats, I think it was just Joel Selwood and Tom Hawkins, have reached it as well. So big milestone for the club as well.
Well, the weird thing is, though, too, is that I feel like, especially the last few years, he's missed so many games due to injury, and old man injuries as well, like calves and stuff. Biggest calves in the game, though, too. But so for him to reach 350, because how many years is he been playing now? So that'd be like, how old is he?
This might be his 18th year.
Yeah, something like that.
That's insane.
So I think he's 35 maybe.
Yeah,
and he probably will go again for another year.
Yeah,
he's contracted, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's contracted for next year too, so he'll keep going.
So I mean, understandably, you got Scott Penderbury, who the type of player he is, you could see the longevity. Although there's a heap of work that he does, but the game that Patrick Dangerfield plays, the explosiveness, the combativeness, you would think his body would just wear out. And especially the last few years, he's probably had 2/3 of the season on field and the others kind of off on the sidelines. So as we've alluded to, it's such a pretty special milestone for him and obviously the club itself.
Yeah, I do wonder how long he's got left in him, but because he doesn't have to play in the midfield as much, you can just park him forward and he might be able to, get to 400. But yeah, I don't know. Especially Geelong are playing finals for the next, 10 years, which they probably will be. But what do you reckon he can get to?
Right, if he goes to the end of next year, that would be 370, 75. I think that milestone, in my opinion, might be out of reach. Yeah. Because I think what Geelong will do, and they've done it this year and previous years, they will manage him and they'll be open and honest about that. Okay, we want you to play 12, 15 games, but make sure you have 4 best-ons in September.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Who's the next player that's close to 350?
Steel Sidebottom shouldn't be too far off.
Yeah, he's about 5
I assumed he already had 350.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I assumed he did as well.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Pendlebury stuff and I was like, oh, he's not even there yet. But I think he's about 343 or 344 games now, something like that. So he'll get there this year. So I think he's the next one up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, congrats to Dangerfield. So the next thing on my rundown that I've added this. So we're done with the buys, right? Please tell me we're done with the buys. We don't have any more buys.
This weekend's got another quartet of clubs.
Are you serious?
Yep.
How is this possible?
I don't actually know. I thought last time I checked, buy rounds were 3 weeks. But I think it's been going for about 5 weeks this year. I think
next week's the last round. You got Brisbane, Geelong, Essendon, and the Giants before I return to all 9 games in round 17 the week after.
Wow, this is we're basically NRL at this point where we have a bye every week. Anyway, so we're halfway through the season. I just passed halfway through the season, so we know what the first half has given us, and a lot of people like to talk about the AFL scriptwriters and the narrative that the season plays out. So I want to pretend that we are in the AFL scriptwriters writers room at the moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what is the most likely narrative to come out of the season and what do you want to see? So for me, the most likely narrative that I can just see is a Collingwood Geelong grand final, but nobody wants to see that apart from Collingwood and Geelong fans. But as writers and like for, you know, people whose livelihood depends on a good storyline, a good narrative,
Entertainment.
what do you want to see out of this season?
Oh, great question. First thing that came to mind initially there was just an overhaul of the tribunal system and umpiring. Now, I know that's what people want to say. I understand that. That's very left field, and everyone can tip, you know, grand finalists, premiership teams, Brownlow medal winning. But I think there's such an uproar with what's going on in terms of just the adjudication and the inconsistencies that I think now with the new team at Andrew Dillon's side, that they'll just come and hopefully correct it all. Now, there'll still be grey area, but obviously everyone wants to see that. And I think with Greg Swan coming in, Tom Harley coming in, a bit of a reshuffling of the team itself, I think, they'll kind of go down the barrel and just clean it all up because it's just too much frustration at the moment. And I completely understand that is left field, but that is what I thought of because I was trying to steer clear of just the traditional, this is the grand finalist, Brownlow medal, Coleman medal winner, or like maybe the usual narrative writing areas of conversation. So, yeah.
Right.
I know I took you guys by surprise, that one, didn't it?
I was just kidding because like but I get it. Like that side of the game of like the, you know, the administration side of the thing, that is interesting and in a narrative sense. What do you think?
If I was the scriptwriter, right, and they said a lot in American sports about how it can be like, oh, they've got the script and it's like WWE, everything's for entertainment and stuff like that. So if I'm thinking from what the AFL wants for ratings and entertainment, I'm thinking, as you said, it has to be Collingwood in the grand final because it's one of the biggest clubs and they're going quite well at the moment.
You are right.
And again, there's nothing like a fairy tale story as well. The AFL did it like 2016 Bulldogs, everyone loved that. 2021 Demons, everyone loved that because it's the drought breaking year. So you think about teams that, you know, haven't won a grand final. So if you get a Collingwood in there to get the ratings up, and then you get an interstate team that hasn't won one. So you think about the Giants, your Gold Coast, your Freo, if they get in there, you're going to have the Collingwood fans watch the game because they want Collingwood to win. And then the other fans, there's like, and no one else is going to support Collingwood. So who else would they rather support? They'd rather support a team that hasn't won before. So I think Freo, Gold Coast, or Giants, if they get in there, that's probably what I'll be doing for what I want. Yeah. For an entertainment perspective. What's most likely? I mean, Collingwood's up there at the moment. And again, Geelong will probably get Victorian finals, or Hawthorn might get in the top 4 and get home finals, and they might get in there, or Brisbane will get in there again. So that's probably most likely, but that's probably what I'd want. And then I was thinking about specific finals matchups, like ones that, you know, you'd be drawn to your seat for every single. Obviously, every footy fan's going to watch the finals, but they're, you know, for the casual fan, you're going to have a bit of a matchup that everyone kind of wants to see. I remember there's like St Kilda Bulldogs games, and like if you're a casual fan, you probably don't really care too much about that from a few years ago. So I was thinking about what matchups would be, you know, the most entertaining from, you know, throughout the whole final series. So I'm thinking like an expansion cup elimination final.
Oh, that'd be great.
Gold Coast crack into the finals, Giants stick around where they are right now, like 6th, 7th. Expansion, we just saw it on the weekend how good it was in a final where they're both, you know, expansion teams, and one of which has never played finals before. I think that would be a great matchup. I think a Geelong game against an interstate club, so they can play at GMHBA and do the whiteout again in a finals atmosphere. I think that would be really cool. I think because you know the fight like at home and away games, like it's whatever. It was Dangerfield's 350th, so I get the get up because of that. But if you get you can't really do it at the MCG because it's going to be a 50-50 split crowd. But at Geelong they get 95% or 90 more than that.
But do they play all their finals at? Any finals at GMHBA
interstate clubs they made.
Yeah, interstate clubs. I think they played Freo there one year and they lost.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right, so
generally, only interstate.
Yeah, so that's why I think if they play an interstate club, they can do the whole whiteout or a blue out or something like that. So I think that would be pretty cool. I think those would be some good scripts for entertainment.
Those have all the steps for a good narrative, and I think you're right. Like you need a good villain in any narrative, and Collingwood is that villain because you need a highly supported team that everybody loves to hate. I think Hawthorn would be a good villain this year. Geelong would be a good villain this year, but I think the most like fairy tale hero narrative would probably be Gold Coast or GWS, like to come from behind. My narrative going into this year that I think I have said on this podcast before was like what I would love to see was to get with Port to win the granny. But I think since that Sydney loss, I think that narrative is completely gone now. So, but I thought that would be the funniest possible narrative to come out of this year, is if in Ken Hinckley's last year they won the grand final and then Port fans had to deal with that. But I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think it's still Gold Coast would be the best narrative this year for Gold Coast to not only get to their first final series, but to win and then beat like a Collingwood or a Geelong or whatever in the best narrative. So, that's what I like. Good writers' room. Let us know in the comments what you think would be the funniest or best narrative to come out of this year. I think we're set up because it's pretty uncertain of like what is going to happen in the second half of this year. So,
good segment.
Yeah, like it. All right. AFL Grand Final has started. So they've locked in the time.
2:30 p.m.
They've confirmed the time. We haven't confirmed the music act, but there are rumors circulating that it's going to be the Fooies, the Foo Fighters, which would be like the perfect AFL choice, I think, for an AFL Grand Final entertainment. But yeah, if you had to pick the AFL Grand Final music, like not what you would personally, I guess what you would personally want, or what do you think is the perfect fit? Because I think Foo Fighters are the most perfect fit for an AFL Grand Final. They're just middle of the road. Everybody likes them. They're going through a bit of a weird slump at the moment just because they fired their drummer and all the stuff going on with Dave Grohl. But that's like when you want to play an AFL Grand Final, you know? Like you can get them when they're probably a little bit cheaper. Yeah. Same as what happened with Katy Perry. You know, like she was trying this big comeback and it got all weird. She went to space. But in that, like she got like however much $1 million for the grand final thing. So it's like the perfect career move to just do like something on a big scale, but small market, which is the AFL grand final. But who do you think?
Well, when you said personally versus what suits the AFL grand final, but I had two answers. So mine, for some reason, I had Coldplay come in as just a spectacle. At grand final, I think they've already done it at the G not too long ago. So performance there, it's tried and true. That smashed out of the park. But personally, Icehouse, which is an Australian band, rock band, very interesting.
I'll be honest, I've never actually heard of
But I'd also just go to the pub and just watch them in one of the listening rooms. So
yeah.
Fair enough. Oh, I have no idea, to be honest. I don't think my music taste is set for an AFL Grand Final.
What is your music taste?
We don't have to talk about it on here. I don't know if anyone
because it's like very obscure Gen Z stuff, or is it because it's embarrassing?
Oh, it's probably more of the obscure Gen Z stuff. Like you're not going to get like a rap artist or something into the grand final, I don't think. And I think you think about the crowd that's there, all the corporate people, and you got all the Give me one name. Playboy Cardi, Ken Carson. Or
the Playboy Cardi's never do the AFL.
Never heard of them.
But you say that, but I think there should always be an Australian artist in there, which I do think they try to.
They do, yeah.
But Baker Boy was really good.
Yes,
I think he should get the honours of doing it at the MCG as well. Like he did I think he played at the Demons one over at Optus Stadium and killed it. But I think the perfect choice is Australian band, like rock band, because that's the AFL audience. I thought Gang of Youths are perfect for that, but they're more of an NRL. I think they did the NRL Grand Final a few years ago, Gang of Youths. I can't remember, but they would be a good pick, I think.
I like I was thinking, was it Lime Cordial or Spacey Jane or something? Like, I think they did it, like, it would probably, like, I like because it was Australian, and I think it was that 2021 they might have did it, because they were based in Perth or something, and
I can't remember. Yeah.
But, I was thinking like something like Spacey Jane or Sticky Fingers, if they're still going around.
Yeah.
They've been, they're good, like, Australian ones. There's probably a bit younger, but, like, the Australian ones, and if you want to get Australian artists in, I think that'd be good.
I think the perfect choice, which would probably never happen, but because they're Australian, it's not a non-zero chance. But for the funniest possible outcome, 1-4.
Yeah, I think that'd be good for the NRL. I remember the kid Leroy did the NRL last year, and everyone was like, they got to bring out 1-4 because I'm pretty sure 1-4 are big, like from Western Sydney, so they were Penrith fans and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
everyone just wanted to bring them out, but I don't think they ended up doing it or something like that.
If GWS makes the
gonna
grand
say,
final,
yeah.
I
I'm
think a
surprised
1-4
club.
should be booked.
That'd be pretty cool.
I reckon that's okay. That is now my favorite narrative. Going back to the writers' room segment,
Yeah.
I think GWS versus Collingwood in the grand final, and then 1-4 to play the opening.
What you should do as well, pen a letter. Like you did for Cozzy. That worked. So your strike rate's 100%. So do it again. And we might be able to get the 1-4 pending Giants and maybe Sydney's.
I do have a lot of influence. I do think I need an open letter for that one. All right, cool. So that's our weekly. That's our AFL Grand Final music. So weekly awards. What did we like from this week? We'll start with you.
Yeah, interesting piece of info that I heard from the Port Swans game. So obviously the Sydney Swans got up. Pre-game, or actually leading into the game, Miles Bergman was tasked with tagging Isaac Heaney, which is pretty decent role, prime mover. If you can stop him, you basically stop the Swans. But he had a bit of an injury cloud over him with his shoulder last week. Obviously got up. Then Heaney, in a post-match press conference after kicking 2 goals, had 28 touches and probably best on ground, revealed that Miles Bergman told him that he was sick. Now, if you're tagging someone, I would recommend not telling them that you're sick or sore or you're underdone, because it gives them a leg up to say, I'm just going to run this bloke rag and I'm just going to put him where he doesn't want to go. So my award for Miles Bergman is the WikiLeaks award, which, just something that he shouldn't be revealing, especially to an opponent, maybe to teammates and such like that. Help me out, give me a chop out. But obviously, Heaney took that information and ran with it, and he probably should get 3 Brownlow votes come Brownlow night for that performance. And Miles Bergman, you are currently in the gun.
Yeah. I was going to say give it specifically the Julian Assange award, because if you leak too much information, you're going to get in trouble. And
that's what happened.
What happened to him? Have you? Because I just found out that you play footy.
Yeah.
Have you ever tagged anyone? Have you ever leaked too much information?
No, I haven't tagged anyone, but I remember I was lining up for a goal one time, and this guy was just trying to get in my ear a little bit, and I told him after I kicked the goal, I was like, it almost worked, you almost got in my head. So then he just wouldn't shut up for the rest of the game, because he thought he had a chance of getting in my head a little bit. So I was like, I probably shouldn't have tried to be mates with him or something like that.
You play footy as well,
Yeah, I was just to add to that. So I got told that an opponent's mother can kick the footy better than I could because I missed a goal on the weekend, and it made me laugh. Like I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I also got told that I should play soccer, and not footy. So interesting what you hear from the other side of the bench, on the other side of the fence. Sorry.
Yeah.
Are you do you talk to your direct opponent?
Kind of, yeah, but I'm not like just say, using it as an example, like a rough tagger, that gets in the ear. I might go up to them and start high-fiving them, or just say, hey, what are you guys doing after this? Just really make them go, what the hell is this bloke on about? Like, what is wrong with you?
There's a bit of Ryan Crowley about it. I think he was like that with Gary Ablett. He'd always praise him and stuff when he was going well, when he was playing. It got in his head a bit. So, yeah, I don't mind that sort of stuff. I like it too. Yeah.
Love that. Well, in that vein, my award is going to Windhager. He's getting the Mr. Krabs Award for pinching Nick Dacos, which I still like. I know that he was kneeing him and stuff, and we were meant to frown upon that. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's funny. Just if you're tagging, I love that there's tagging in the game, and it's really back in vogue. I think if you can get away with it, then that's fine. Marcus Windhager gets the award because he didn't get away with it, but it's just gamesmanship. If you can get away with tagging, get under his skin. Obviously, it didn't work because he ended up with 31 disposals or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like the attempt. I like Ed Langdon the other week getting into Dacos. He was holding him 60 meters off the ball and getting away with it. And I think it's look, Dacos is going to destroy you no matter what. So you have to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I heard also with that, although some of the tactics may be deemed illegal or the optics might not be great, the fact that in this instant it did work, but against Melbourne it didn't. The fact that Nick Dacos has to fight through these tags is just energy in itself.
Yep.
So he might still get a free kick. He might get 5 free kicks for the day, but he'd be gassed trying to literally wrestle guys who are probably a little bit bigger than him or a bit more physically imposing. That's not to say Dacos isn't.
Yeah.
But it kind of comes to, the impact in that sense. Not necessarily doesn't get the ball, but just in terms of his ability to run out games, which obviously against St Kilda he ended up doing so.
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of the press conferences from Ross or whatever, but I can't imagine that Ross was too upset with Windhager's performance either. Like because that was what he was after, obviously.
Yeah, I think he was more questioning how some of them got free kicks.
Yeah.
And he said he was going to get some clarity from the AFL about them. So in typical Ross fashion, he always poses up some sort of question that.
Yeah.
But if you watch any game, players are always just doing stuff to see what they can get away with.
Absolutely.
Like that's part of the game. And if you don't like it, then you're not paying attention to what players are actually doing.
I remember a few years ago when Ben Stratton was at the Hawks, he did a bit of pinching as well. They was just trying to get under the skin of
Fantasia.
Yeah, so
but it's the same
that
as saying weird
bad,
stuff.
though.
Yeah,
I remember his tricep or his arm was
it was
all
like
red. I was
that's
it probably hurt.
yeah. So yeah, again, what you said with the optics is probably not a good look. It looks a little soft, just pinching people, but it's a bit funny as well. So
yeah. You can't imagine because like you look at you watch a game and you know that they're talking at each other. So like I reckon people have they've said worse stuff than that have had worse effects than just pinching someone. Like pinching is just annoying.
This is annoying.
Yeah.
That's the role of the tagger. Be annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, your award?
My award is the Revengers Sweet Award, and it goes to Fremantle's Patrick Voss. He kicked a goal on his old club that he was listed on. I don't think he ever played a game at Essendon, but he was on their list for 2 years before getting delisted and kicked a nice ceiling goal throughout the game and just gave him a massive seller. He loves it. He loves the celebration. He gets up and about, but he kept going for a while there. I think he was pretty excited about it. So revenge is sweet sometimes, and I'm sure he was planning that one for a while to kick a goal against his old club there. So that was a good one to watch.
To be fair, he gives the biggest celebration whenever he kicks a goal.
Yeah.
Like it just keeps going up every time he kicks a goal.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was
that.
expecting a big one, but like I thought it was done, and it was still going.
Yeah.
And then BT gave it a bit of stuff on the commentary as well. He was going full Triple M mode, so that was quite good as well.
I feel like Patrick Voss has been that breakout cult player. Like every year, there's like a player that comes out that everybody just loves.
Yeah,
and Patrick Voss is that. And then at some point, the tide's going to turn on him, where like everyone's going to hate him. Yeah. But we're in that sweet spot at the moment where everyone's just like, yeah, we like him. We like him.
Yeah.
Good one. All right. So next segment, Cal, you brought this one to the table, to the rundown. So what do we got?
So I've been seeing some things on TikTok, social media lately where people, they make up their own sayings, and it sounds like it could be something that people actually say. It sounds like it's a deep phrase about life or about, a situation that you're in or something like that. So, you think about the classic ones like, oh, sometimes you need to stop and smell the roses and, take life, appreciate life or something like that. And then I've seen people, make their own ones, but I think we could do a little bit of a footy twist on it. So I was wondering, I've got some of my own, of course. I've got a fair few. I was brainstorming up late at night last week about some because they all just came to my head. But, oh yeah, does anyone want to start, or I can start off?
No, you go. You brought this segment.
I've got a fair list here.
Just pulled out the phone.
I love that.
Yeah, they're all in the notes app here. So.
Right.
Sometimes you need a stint in the VFL is the first one. So that means sometimes you just need a backward step, and that can lead to greater things. Or in another essence, you can take a step back and sort of appreciate what you have. So if think about Jack Ginnivan, he wasn't playing well at AFL level, took a step back to the VFL, and then it sort of led to him reaching better form again, and now he's in cracking form. You can think about that in life in general.
Yeah.
Some other ones that I had was there's a second Dacos on the field, so you can't be tied up worrying about one thing because other things are gonna come and get you while you're all worried about one thing in one basket. So you think about the Dacoses, you got two Dacoses out there. So if you're worried about tagging Nick Dacos, Josh Dacos is going to burn you as well.
See,
so,
I like that. Yeah, it's kind of like don't sweat the small stuff, where if you can't get too preoccupied with one thing, because there's always going to be something. Yeah, I like that. There's two Dacoses on the field.
There's two Dacoses on the field.
The problems are never ended, basically.
There's a very nice way of looking at it. Sometimes you just need to chip it around the back line. So sometimes you can't just blaze away, go headfirst into things you don't worry. Sometimes it's better to take the patient approach, and then things will lead out from there. So sometimes you just got to chip it around the back line, take your time.
Love that.
And last one that I've got is life is like the Carlton Football Club. You usually know what you're going to get, and it's disappointment.
That's dark. But it's so true.
It's so true. I came up with that one actually before the weekend, and it rings even truer now. So sorry to Carlton fans about that one, but yeah.
I like that a lot of those seem to be the through line for all of those ones is that life is pretty difficult.
yeah, it sort of took a theme there, didn't it?
I came up with a few ones. So this one is related to me today. Today I'm on limited minutes because sometimes you just need like I've had a big weekend. And so today you just need to do the bare minimum. You just need to get through it and today I'm on limited minutes. So that was me today. Now, one that I'm trying to change. So one that you notice in commentary a lot is like the one wood. Like that's popped up, I reckon, the last 2 years. Everyone's like, oh yeah, that's their one wood. But the context of that they use it in footy is like, oh, that's your reliable club. That's your reliable
go-to
thing. Yeah. But that's from golf. And I play a lot of golf. And if anybody knows anything about golf, is that your one wood, your driver, is that's nobody's most reliable club. And like I'm the average golfer. So my one wood is either straight down the middle of the fairway or it's slicing off to the right for most people. That's their driver. That's their one wood. So for me, my one wood is when you take a risk on something, but you're brave enough to do it, you know? So like if say you're at a nice job or whatever, and you're like, this other job pops up and you're like, if I quit my job now and go to this next one, it's a bit of a risk, but I'm going to be brave enough to do it.
Yeah.
So that's my one wood. That's what a one wood should be. I'm also a list rebuild. So I'm in my 30s now. And when you get, gentlemen, you're going to understand this when you hit your 30s. But once you hit your 30s, your circle of friends becomes a bit smaller, right? And you come out fresh out of high school or uni or whatever, and you have all these people in your life, and you're like, oh yeah, I know this guy, blah 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 blah. But your circle of trust gets smaller. So you need to do, once you hit your 30s, you need to do a bit of a list rebuild. And you just like drop all your players, like the people that you don't need out of your life. And then you just like concentrate on the people that are important to you and that are going to carry you through to the next premiership, which is, I don't know what, in this analogy, don't know what the next premiership is for me.
Your 40s.
My 40s. But that for me, I'm in a list rebuild right now. You know, you just gotta let the people that aren't important go. And then just focus on like your core.
You know, I like that one a lot. I like that one a lot. I think next time I cut off a friend who's snaked me or something like that, I'm just gonna say sorry, mate. I'm doing a list rebuild right now. And that's all the reason he's doing.
You are delisted. You got to delist.
Delisted. You know?
Yeah. Anyway, you got any?
No, but I've got just a blanket one. Anything Dwayne Russell says.
Yep.
Just anything. That's just made up footy sayings. Like a lot of, I'll call one. You know, he's got cream dripping off it.
Yeah.
One when someone dribbles a ball for goals, dribbles it, rolls it, dribbles it, goals it, rolls it. So anything he says is made up. And
but is there any other context in your life where you will say something like that?
No. Not anything. No, anything that Dwayne says, I probably wouldn't apply it to my own life.
I say, oh baby, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
okay.
Out of nowhere, maybe.
What's another one? There's another one that he always shake him and bake him or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When they're spinning it. You gotta he's got some interesting ones.
I love Dwayne Russell. Anyway. All right, we'll head to the mailbag before we get to the preview. So mailbag. If you want to send something into the mailbag, follow us on Instagram at Zero Hanger, and we post a little question thingy on Sundays. This one comes from Colby Canetta, who's a big fan, a good commenter on the YouTube channel. So, if finals started today, who would each of you have winning the flag? We've sort of talked about that this episode, but unfortunately for me, it looks like Collingwood are the most primed at the moment. They're the most reliable, at least. So, and they have the most, they have recent experience. So I think I can see them pushing pretty deep.
Would have to agree.
Yeah,
begrudgingly.
If it's starting today, Collingwood's because they're just in the hottest form. But I think Brisbane is, they're almost. I feel like they're still cruising a little bit against some teams, and then when they turn up against like they did against Geelong, they can turn up and beat the good side. So I think Brisbane is still going strongly. So I would have them as well if we're not talking Collingwood. Yeah,
if it started today, Collingwood still have they could still do that. They've peaked too early thing where they lose momentum right at the end of the season. Their list is old, but it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
No,
they're pretty well managed and rested.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Still got a few players to come back as well.
Yep. And then Declan Peppernick asks, are the Dogs pretenders, can flog the little teams but can't beat a top 8 side? What do you think?
I'm not going to completely disagree with that, to be honest. I think their record against top 8 sides is 1-6 or something like that. So yeah, they're definitely, but again, they've been competitive in those games. Like the record probably is a little worse than what it represents. They've had close games against Collingwood, and they had a close game against Geelong. That's the one. So yeah, they've had that. I think it's a good sign if you can still flog the bad teams, because you got to beat who's in front of you. So yeah, but again, it's like they've got such a great list, and they probably won't finish top 4 again under Luke Beveridge. So that's probably the disappointing part of it.
I don't actually understand what pretenders is supposed to mean.
Well, I think in this sport, if you don't win, which is 17 other teams, you failed, you're pretenders, you're no good. And it's also pretending is based off expectation versus results. So everyone talks about, and it's funny, a bit of the narrative around the Bulldogs is the most informed team in the competition, yet they sit 8th.
Yeah.
So how can you be the most informed team in the competition when you're literally middle pegging?
Yeah.
So that's where the pretenders conversation comes into it. It's like, well, they're the best team in terms of form. They should be better based on their list, yet they're not. So it's outcome versus expectation.
Yeah, but I think, so it must then...
That's
but then, I don't understand what they're like. How are they pretending? You can't pretend to be good. You just are what you are.
Sometimes,
you know what I mean?
Sometimes, I understand what you're saying. Sometimes people just view it as like almost like the ladder can lie. Sometimes, like I remember Hawthorn finished top 4 2018, and they went out straight sets, and they were never really a top 4 team, but they'd finished top 4. And I think you think of Port Adelaide last year, finished second on the ladder. Like you think that's a really good finish, but they got walloped by Geelong at home, and then they fired up against Hawthorn, but then they got smashed against Sydney. So there are teams that do well in the home and away season, but there's just like almost like a vibe as if like they're really not as good as what their results say.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't have a big issue with that word. I don't think it's a real thing. I think the word pretenders is a pretender. I think that's a actually a relevant word in this context. But anyway, okay, cool. Thank you for the mailbag. Send more stuff in. Round 16 preview. What do we got? What are we looking forward to? I haven't actually even looked at the
it's pretty dry round actually.
thing.
Yeah, Swans, Dogs, SCG, they usually play pretty combative games, 2 relatively strong midfield groups. Obviously the Swans, big win, Goulden back, Papley back.
Mm-hmm.
They need to keep winning if there's any chance of returning to September. Obviously very far-fetched.
But I feel like if they return to September, they're just going to... Like, I can't see that narrative happening where they, like, make a run into finals. Actually, I can see them making a run into finals, but then once they get to finals, I don't think...
Running out of
I can
gas,
see them.
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't see them being relevant.
Yeah, it just came from too far back.
Yeah.
But normally, again, from just a match perspective, those two teams usually put up a pretty good game. So that's Friday night at the SCG, so probably one to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I think Gold Coast Melbourne could be interesting as well. Melbourne are in some decent form sometimes, and then Gold Coast coming off 3-game losing streak. So if they lose 4 in a row, that's a big hit for them. So that'll be interesting.
At People First, though. I actually could see us winning that. Like we've lost like the last 3, but coming off the bye, but we haven't lost in the worst fashion apart from St Kilda.
Yeah.
Oh, actually,
well, you should have actually won that game.
Yeah,
and
I mean it's just the kicking thing.
Yeah.
I think Thursday's game as well, kind of a battle between the most disappointing clubs.
That's actually a good point.
One meant to be a premiership contender, one that made a prelim last year, and both faltering a fair bit, and both coming off very disappointing losses too. So, yeah, I don't see these either Port Adelaide or Carlton, who play Thursday, making a decent run to the finals or at all. But I think the loser out of this would almost have to be... I feel like I say it every week, but have to be ruled out.
Yeah, I for this one, I feel bad for the coach of whoever loses this game, because like Bossy's gonna cop it this week, and like I don't know. Although Ken's in this weird spot where like if they lose that, he's gonna be copping it, but I don't think he's gonna care that much because he's just like I'm out of here. So
he'll be in Europe by September 1st.
Other than that, I mean, like, what are we expecting out of Collingwood? Like, what can West Coast actually get out of this game?
Well, there's a piece of history. There's 2022 when West Coast were obliterated by COVID-19 impacted. So they used 50 players that year. Anyway, this game in particular at Marvel, they surprised and beat Collingwood, who ended up making the prelim that year against Sydney in Craig McRae's first year. Different teams, different times. Collingwood a bit more stable this time around, but Who
But
knows?
you probably take a little bit of belief in that. It's not like they're journeying to a venue they've struggled at before, and if sometimes a little bit of history on your side can be good, especially if you're a bottom team.
Yeah, I
Also, the battle for Tassie, I just noticed. Hawks North. So both have obviously allegiances down in the Apple Isle. Hawthorn coming off the bye should win at their home. It is played at UTAS, but North, after a pretty impressive win over Carlton, probably should have won by more.
They've got a bit of I like they haven't
form.
been they got a bit of form obviously coming off the win, but I think Hawks will just take that.
Also-
Hawks and Tassie are really good. Like,
Also, interesting scheduling. So they tried the Friday night game, Hawthorn Adelaide, the other week.
That's
it was
right.
a bit of a slugfest. if you
Yeah.
wanna call it that. With just the conditions, it's just cold and wet
Dewey.
and dewy. Now they've gone 4-15. Obviously, they did this a while ago now in terms of the scheduling. But again, it could be another mini audition for the Tasmanian team and see if they can get away with twilight games.
It's true.
That's
Yeah.
not too much of an impact because obviously night games without a roof proved to be quite influential.
I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy the conspiracy theory of them putting that Friday night Tassie game
Just to
on
prove
just
that
to
they're
prove
rude,
that
yeah.
like they can't do this.
Conspiracy though?
I mean conspiracy in the sense that it's not proven. They haven't come out and said that, but we're a news organization. We got to get these things right.
Yeah.
And then Crows Richmond. I mean, fair enough. And then Freo St Kilda. I can actually see St Kilda going over and winning that
Ross
one.
Lyon Cup.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there are a couple of weird little narratives in this round. Otherwise, it's not. I've got to be honest, it's not that interesting round. But I will nevertheless still tip 3 out of those 7 games, probably.
Yeah, tipping's been awful this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps it up for the Hitout this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you, fellas, for coming on. What do we got going on at zerohanger.com? Just the usual.
Everything after the draft stuff. Continuing
Yes.
with that with John T and Mitch doing heaps of work and
Yeah.
making sure everything's covered there.
Carlton draft heating up. We're doing previews for every team, every club at the moment, and what they're going to be chasing in the draft as well. But I will have put a plug for that in the intro, which I haven't recorded yet, but we'll do that anyway.
Smart man.
Yeah, love it. Cool. All right, subscribe to the YouTube channel. See ya next week. Bye.